Hello and welcome to this edition of Age of Truth TV. I'm Lucas Alexander in Budapest, Hungary. It's the 9th of January 2019 and we want to wish every one of you a very happy new year. On many of our previous shows, I had the privilege of interviewing some of the most prominent speakers within the alternative field of truth research about their knowledge, opinions, philosophies, and research into one of the most specific and important areas of life: death. What happens to us human beings when we die? On this show, we will feature some of our most memorable highlights. What happens to us when we die?
Yeah, that's a good question, no doubt about it. And I have to honestly say that I don't know. But I'm tending to think that there is something to reincarnation.
I agree with the Asian religions of reincarnation because, again, the energy cannot die, so you cannot die. All your thoughts, all your feelings, your love, your hate, your jealousy, whatever, that is in the energy body.
It's my conclusion over many years that reincarnation is a trap. It's not that it doesn't exist, although I don't think it's quite the same as it's explained. It's a bit more subtle maybe, but I do think it's a trap.
The recycling of souls, reincarnation, is the machinery of this universe. Since hearing that and having had a lot of discussions with a lot of other people about this whole thing, one of the growing consensus of investigators is whatever is the conflict, whatever is a secret war, whatever has been going on this planet for 270 million years, there are beings that are studying where the human soul goes at the moment of death because they cannot enter that dimension.
They cannot enter that dimension.
I don't think it would be beneficial for us to remember all of these past lives and all these past experiences because it would affect how we relate to now. Because it's all about what you do with it. It's all about what you do with this experience, and you've got to have the opportunity to mess up.
So you do believe in reincarnation, like past lives?
I do. Well, you look at it really, I believe that there's a single consciousness. I believe there's only one of us here experiencing life from 7 billion different perspectives. So I could be you at any given time. So there's your reincarnation. Who knows if time is cyclic or if it's linear or whatever? How do we know there's only one of us? There isn't just one of us here that comes back and experiences reality from 7 billion different perspectives each time. How do we know?
When you die, you're met by whoever you believe in. If you believe in God or believe in Jesus, or if you're Muslim and believe in Allah, or whoever you believe in meets you there. And for instance, now I will be met by the Great Pumpkin because I believe the Great Pumpkin is gonna meet me there.
That's going to be an experience.
What people are calling the white light is not always the same white light. It's not all lights are the same. Not all light beings are the same. And you can be deceived by one being looking like a light being when in reality it's a dark being.
So they can change form.
Absolutely. And all I'm saying is that I would be very careful with thinking that everyone is doing the same thing and that all these experiences are the same.
A being of light came in front of me, and it was so bright that I had to kneel, and it looked like, well, I'm a Lutheran by birth, so it looked like Jesus' figure. This light being looking like Jesus, you know, like Statue of Liberty was so big, and I couldn't look because it was so strong. It said, it's nothing, you know, great to be a doctor. And I was a young doctor, I was proud of it. And then it showed my whole life what's going to happen. And I couldn't understand, of course. And then I came back to the body and I wake up. And then I start to say, I have seen this. Oh yeah, you know, you lost so much blood. It's okay, it's okay.
But if you saw Jesus, I mean, a lot of people who would see Jesus would think of it as like a revelation and a proof that he exists, and this is a religious proof, isn't it? Was that how you felt at the time?
No, I just felt the light. But if I had been a Muslim, according to research in near-death experiences, I would have seen probably Muhammad. If I had been a Buddhist, I would have seen Buddha. So it depends on your cultural background, how you experience when you're in other dimensions.
As a Christian, Muslim, Jew, right. Buddhist, Hindu.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you see those gods, but isn't that obvious? Too obvious?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know what I was going to experience. But in general, you can say if you're atheist, that comes from research too, you just see the light, a being of light. And what does the being of light number 1 tell you? It says, what have you done with your life? What have you done with your life? And your life from your birth into this body to the moment that you're out because of a whatever accident or what. So everything you have said, everything you have experienced, just goes like a film like this.
I mean, you look at the millions and millions of people now who've had near-death experiences when their body has died and then been revived, and they talk about what happened in that period in between. First of all, time disappears, because time and weight and motion and all these things that we take for granted in this reality are only information decoded by the brain. And the brain is all operating in this band of frequencies of 5 senses. Once you leave, what do these near-death experiences say? Suddenly, there was this massive expansion of consciousness. I could see past, present, and future in the same now. I was aware of multiple realities in the same now. Why? Because the state of awareness that is the true eternal I, no form, no body, just awareness, has been released from the body's focus of attention. It's like being released from the computer. And then that awareness, depending on its vibrational state, which comes from its perceptual state, the two are absolutely connected, then goes and explores another dimension of reality outside of this body.
What dimension is that? What reality is that? What happens when the soul leaves, let's say, this realm?
It's all to do with frequency. Mm-hmm. This is why Albert Einstein said, all you've got to do is get the frequency you want, and then you'll get what that frequency represents.
So you can decide.
Well, yeah, but it comes from your perception. I mean, I go into this in the talks mm-hmm. and in the books in detail. I go into it in the talks, it's really important. If you are in a state of depression, or a state of anger, or a state of hatred, these things are represented by frequencies. If you're in a state of joy and empathy and love in its various forms, then you are in a high frequency, because your emotional, mental, perceptual state dictates your frequency. And your frequency dictates, and how expanded it is, and the nature of the frequency dictates what you connect with. So if you say I self-identify with being this, what I call point of attention with an infinite awareness, that you are infinite awareness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, all possibility having an experience, then that perceptual state will connect you with the greater awareness, the scientists call the quantum field of possibility and probability, in a much more expanded way. So you have then, therefore, the potential to manifest, decode out of that potential and possibility enormously greater
And steer your own the direction you want to go.
Yeah, but what you'll do is you will be able to therefore manifest possibilities in your life and means of creation in your life on a much more expanded way than someone who is in a perceptual state that says, I'm little me, I've got no power, I have to look up to them because they know what they're doing and I don't. That is a very narrow, very low frequency perceptual state. So you will interact with this field of possibility and probability in that frequency band that is represented by your limited state of perception and limited state of self-identity. Thus, what you will create is another self-fulfilling prophecy, just like the expanded state of awareness, and that self-fulfilling prophecy will be little me perception becomes little me life, little me I have no power experience.
A physicist who worked at Area 51 for a long time can describe the elevator systems that are made so nobody can get down into the lower levels unless they have codes and keys. That's how they secure Area 51. And he told me, he said, if you put your hands together and then just bring them up a little, that space in between your palms of your hands, that's our universe of matter. Right on the edge of your skin is the first closest dimension, and we call it the astral. But he said it is the closest dimension, and in that dimension there's a lot of entropy.
Is that the fourth dimension?
The key word is entropy. If you have a dimension surrounding the universe, and we're in a universe, entropy is the winding down of energy to death. Only in a universe or a dimension dominated by entropy would you have death, war, dark. And he said beyond that closest dimension, he knew about 15. And he said, think of a Russian doll. They're nested in each other. He said, it's my understanding that the problem in this universe that may have been made specifically to be a trainer of souls, so that they would always be juxtaposed to a dimension that had entropy and dark, penetrating frequencies, always trying to get into this universe. What is the fight back? What neutralizes them is love, is light, and life.
So what do you mean by no death? Is that the physical body, as we know, dies?
Sure, of course.
And what's left?
It's
What
your
is
energy. I have done research even with myself. When I learned about it in the 70s, I was in America and heard that there's a technology that you can get out of your body. So I concentrated. One night I was in Chief Medical Office of Lapland at the Arctic Circle in Finland, and one night I just concentrated. I want to get out, and all of a sudden I started getting like radio waves going through my body from toes to my head, and I started sort of shaking. So, and all of a sudden in a second I was out, and I was floating.
It was out of body experience.
Out of body experience. I was floating towards the ceiling. And what surprised me was, because I was at 8 p.m., I was naked and I was having my knees up, like my head was here and my knees were up. So in this astral body, energy body, my knees were up too. I was sort of like, hey, wait a minute,
Really?
I'm in two. And then I started looking down, because it's not often you have experiences like this. So I saw that my physical body was very, very slow in breathing, and I worked as a chief anesthetist once a long time ago, so I can count 60 seconds without a clock anytime. So I started counting, and I thought, hey, it's only 10 times a minute, and 20 times a minute is normal. So vital signs are going. So I got a little bit worried, and I descended from the ceiling and took the pulse of my physical body with my astral body's hand.
And you could
It was
feel it?
32. Yeah, I could
feel
feel it like I feel it here, and it was 32 a minute. When you're relaxing, it should be 60. And then I really got worried. I thought, oh, I'm going to die. I mean, what's going to happen? And then I said, like men say at war, they cry for their mother. My mother was 800 kilometers away in Helsinki. And I said, Mother, help me. And all of a sudden, in a second, I was in Helsinki at her living room. And she was sewing a long dress with flowers.
So were you next to her or up, looking
I
from
was
above?
just, I was not in the astral form of myself.
No.
I was just like a point of consciousness above. And my niece was there, 5-year-old, was babysitted. I saw the drawing. She was drawing a house and a tree and flowers and whatever. And I heard them chatting, but I couldn't hear the words. I didn't know what, but I knew it was not important. And then I thought, where's my sister? Hey, my niece is being babysitted. And in a second, when I thought, where's my sister? Surroundings changed. And I was at a cocktail party in Helsinki somewhere. And then I looked around and I saw a lot of people I knew. And there was my sister flirting with a family friend. And I thought, where's her husband? No place. I want to go home. And immediately, 800 kilometers back to Rovaniemi.
So it's
And
like
then-
switching from one thing to the other.
Exactly, like
At
like
will.
this, at will. And then I was floating like this, in Rovaniemi again, and there I saw my body. And I thought, hey, wait a minute, what, I want to go back. I mean, how do I do it? And then I thought, oh, all the thoughts were in the astral body. Nothing was in the physical, nothing. It was just like a dead corpse. And I thought, oh, how do I get back? I mean, otherwise I'm going to die, or what happens? And if I throw up, I have to see that because I got seasick, floating. I thought,
And you could
no,
feel
I
that
cannot.
even though you were in your astral body?
Yeah, I got seasick in the astral body. And I thought, hey, if I throw up so that I'm suffocating the body. So I said, oh, please help me. And just, I was back.
In
I
your
was
own body?
In my own
Physical
physical body. And I was one, touching myself like, ooh, this was eerie. And then I just fell asleep. And next morning I called my father, who took the phone in Helsinki. I said, what was my mother doing at 8:00 p.m.? Oh, I can't tell you. I can tell you. I said, it's a long dress sewn by hand. Yeah, and my father said, it's a Christmas gift for you. That's why I couldn't tell you. And my niece was there. So Daddy said, how do you know? And I told him that I had astral travel for the first time in my life. And he said, don't ever tell anybody. And of course I went to the Finnish press.
You went directly to the press.
Directly, I told them.
The phenomena that we call reincarnation is true. There's no doubt about that. But it's very tricky. A very, very powerful man that I knew, who was a dear friend of mine, okay? And I'm talking about top of the line in this country.
Right.
A very powerful man. He told me that he had died. He said, I'll tell you, Jordan, experience I had about 5 years ago. This was back in the 90s. He said, I died. I was on the operating table and I died. And he said, and when I died, I felt myself come out of my body. And I felt just fine. And I could hear everybody. I could see what they're doing. I'm watching everything, and everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off because my flat line, and everybody's trying to save me. I don't need to be saved. I feel fine. I'm just watching all you people running around. And he said, all of a sudden, he told me, all of a sudden, I felt myself going backwards into a vortex. And I had no control over it. It was sucking me into a vortex. And he said, I went down a long tube, and I could see a light. And as I was going, there was all kinds of colors as I was spinning around in this tube. This is what this old man told me. And he said that when I came out, there was an angel that met me. When I came out of the tube, an angel met me and said, turn around. You go back. You're not supposed to be here. Turn around and go back. And he said, why? And he said, because one of ours is down there, and you have to go help him. So turn around, you got a job to do. And he said, I felt without any, I didn't do it. It was automatic. I just got sucked back into the vortex, and I went back down through until I came back into the operating room. And he says, I came back, as I started going to my
Consciousness.
body, consciously, I came back and I was looking around and I saw everybody running around. And then when I felt myself go back into my body, everybody started running around because now my vital signs are coming back. I'm coming back into my body.
That's very similar to what a lot of people have said that they experienced.
And so he said, so I'm telling you, I did that. And that I went through the tunnel and saw the angel and he told me to come back.
So he believes in that is the end goal, to go to the white light, because he saw the angel.
Well, from
but
what?
is it to be in that karma wheel all the time? We won't get out of the matrix.
Yeah, I understand.
If we can consciously go back again to the body, or we can consciously go to somewhere else, can we choose not to go into that if it is a constructed deception?
But you see, I'm not in a position to answer that because I don't know. I have gone out of my body, and I have way too many friends around the world that have told me about their experience of going out of their body and going through tubes and seeing the light.
Very similarly.
And I've also talked to people who say, don't go to the light because they're just going to package you and you go back into the system again. And so and so I asked them, well, if I don't go into the light, where would I go?
When we pass away here, we're instantly taken to the lobby of heaven, and it's a fantastic, hard to describe how fantastic it is. When Steve Jobs died 2 years ago, his whole family was around him, and he only had like a minute to live. They knew that because of his heartbeat and the blood pressure and everything, he was just about to expire. About 15 seconds before he totally expired, he went, "Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow." And what he was seeing was the lobby there of where you go after you die. Now,
the tunnel of light?
No, it's a place. It's like the lobby.
The white light, it's referred as too.
Maybe.
And you see a live review pass before your eyes with everything that happened in your life.
They take you to meet many of the friends and associates you knew in your previous lives. And it's really a joyful experience. To spend about 45 minutes meeting and talking with everybody, renewing old acquaintances.
45 minutes?
Yeah. And then you're taken into what they call life review. And they take you into this room where you're shown your life in three-dimensional HD TV, color, sound, everything that happened in your life. And they show you all the wonderful things you did and how you were so gracious to people and the wonderful things you did for people.
So everything must have been registered here?
Everything's recorded.
Because it's holographic? Because it is
because
projection?
they record it.
They record it?
Yeah.
Like a film? So
like
it is like it. So we are in a film, like The Matrix?
Yes. So then they show you all the nasty little things you did, things that you didn't know anybody knew. And there it is, three-dimensional color TV, you performing these awful things, whatever you did. Now, after you see both sides of the equation, the good things you did and the bad things, somebody makes a decision, and I don't know who that is, whether you have to go down back to earth and live another life, learning how to live with integrity, without envy, hate, or greed, and expressing your love to your family each and every day. Or if you pass the test and you get to stay there in heaven. Now, if you stay there in heaven, it's a fantastic place. You have everything you want. It's really great. But you can go further. You can go up to the fifth dimension. You can go up to sixth dimension. Whatever you want to do, it's yours to do.
It's a conscious decision that you can make yourself.
No, they make the decision on whether you go back to
Who are they?
Well, I'd like to know who they are. Whether you go back to Earth or whether you stay in the fourth dimension, which is heaven.
And then you see where you've done wrong and were thought wrong, and hey, that was not good, and this was good, and you're corrected in a way. You want to make good, and then you sometimes get a chance to, will you be on the other side or will you come back to Earth, to your body? And generally, people don't want to come back to the body because this is not a very elevated planet. There are a lot of people who are very, very ignorant here, and we're aggressive, and we don't use our brain capacity. Normally we don't use 90% of our brain capacity. So most people experience they don't want to go back because it is harmonious, it's beautiful surroundings, and the other frequency where you are. But you have
what is
to
known as heaven? I mean, in
well,
religious
you can, yeah,
terms.
we can say it's heaven. Yeah.
But how about hell? That's the counterplace.
There are experiences that are negative, about 1%. And the people who experience very much negativity, they are within meeting people who are like them, negative. But they can call it hell if you want. I mean, there is no hell, it's all in your mind, of course. But when they come back, they usually change. They see that I don't want to go to another frequency which is so negative. So your own thoughts, your own expectations, they decide how you experience the other dimensions.
You fiercely have belief systems which are driving your perception, then you can be caught in this trap. Now, what do they say in the Eastern religions with reincarnation? You have to keep having experiences on Earth to grow to a point, and what do they call it? Basically a vibrational frequency point where you can leave and break out of the reincarnation cycle, right? That's what they say. Now,
Nirvana.
Yeah, you can break it out. Now, this is my question. If you take the mainstream science projection currently of the size of the universe, then planet Earth, by comparison, is a billionth of a pinhead, right? Right. Now,
That's not a lot.
so let's just break this down. You have to keep having lives on the equivalent of a billionth of a pinhead within only one universe, never mind all the other realities that exist beyond it in infinity. And you have to keep reincarnating onto this a billionth of a pinhead to learn how to get out of this reality into another one. Excuse me, that's crazy, man. Again, what were we doing?
You would not want to return to this place, would you? Or would you?
Unless there was something, a contribution you could make, then yes. But the point is that beyond this pinhead, which is actually not a planet, it's an information source, a narrow band of frequency. That's our reality, a band of frequency. And when you look at the night sky, you're looking at a tiny, tiny dot, really, of even this galaxy, never mind the universe itself. So I come back to it. You keep having to reincarnate onto this billionth of a pinhead to evolve. It's nonsense.
We run through this program. At the end of the program, we go back to the beginning and we come in at a different entry point. And we change the program each time. It could be like that. That could be why deja vu happens all the time. Who knows? Maybe we just keep doing this until we get it right. I don't know. But
the same kind of human experience?
The same kind of human experience.
Moment, or
who knows? Who knows? Anything's possible. I don't know, but it's a possibility. Deja vu is an interesting thing, which makes you think that that's possible. But we've got to. We can't remember these past lives, really. I mean, to a degree, we can. I have little flashes where I remember things. I have dreams where I remember things, but it would affect the experience too much if you were to come here and have all that information. When you come here, you wouldn't be a normal playing field you'd be operating on. How would you learn? How would you grow from that point?
That maybe time is not just linear the way we see it, that there is like this beginning and this end here. And that's how we always see time, okay, historically, and the future is there and the time passes there. Well, if you try to wrap your hand around the fact or the idea that the universe or life in general never had a starting point, which means it's infinite. Now, we have a hard time wrapping our heads around something that never ever started. It's just always been. Just that thought alone, it's just really hard to wrap your head around.
never started and never
maybe
stops.
never ends also. Yeah, exactly. And so you have this continuum, and how can that be? How can something just come into creation? Because you're still thinking about something coming into creation, but something's always been It's really hard to wrap your head around that. And so the same thing a little bit with time, you know, we are hard time thinking that, okay, going back in time, how can that be possible, going in the future?
How could it be possible?
Well, it depends. If you look at this 3D reality and say, okay, this is where we are now, it could be a possibility that there's parallel realities, which is going on in parallel, and we're tapping into some of those things. But the now experience is the only thing that we can reference to, and that's how we are at the moment. However, there is the situation where, talking from my own experience, and I think a lot of other people, is where you get a very clear image, a very clear situation shown to you. And then a year later, 2 years later, that exact thing happens. This is a future event that came to you.
Some people have those experiences?
Yeah, sure. And then a lot of people have what they call déjà vu experiences too. That's also kind of hard to explain. But when it comes to when you have repeated experiments or experiences like this, then you have to ask yourself the question, how could that be possible?
Some people have said that they have seen something and then 2 years later or a long time after, then it materializes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that they kind of have an indication on that. But in science, they have this thing where you have, it's what I explained a little bit in the lecture, where this non-locality phenomenon, where one part of a quantum part of something changes, then instantly the other part that's attached to it changing also, independent of space. So that means that it could be superluminal. And then if you go superluminal, which means faster than light, then you get what's called negative time. And this is the stuff they're talking about in quantum physics, which means if you go the opposite direction, you will get future time. And that doesn't account in the theories of Einstein. There is the limitation of the speed of light. But this goes beyond that, and that's kind of something that violates that kind of idea.
I have an ultimate sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, instinctual faith in the power of the soul and in the power of the light. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it matters how long it takes you to get from A to Z, so to speak, to return to source if you wish, and to come again out of source.
How do we return to source? What is that?
Well, it's simply, we see it as a journey, but you got to remember that humans see things in linear terms.
Yeah, time.
This happens, then this happens, and it's all simultaneous. Most scientists even will have to admit at this point that time and space are illusions.
So everything has already happened.
Yes, in a sense. I mean, that it is constantly happening, that it is all simultaneous. We just tend to parse it out so that we can sort of focus. It's a matter of focus. It's like weaving a huge rug, but concentrating on just one thread at a time in order to follow it through. It's that sort of thing.
Distance means nothing when you're dealing with energies. But
there is no time and no space, really. It's only in our physical view of things.
But one thing why this is kept so secret, and why in the Western technical world we don't want generally people to understand, because there are also timelines. You can be also on a different timeline right now. I'm here, but I can send my energy to the future or to the past. And what is worst, the past can be changed. Now that is scary. And of course, if all people would start doing that, it would be a chaos.
So are you telling me that the past already, the past happened, but the future happened as well? So what is the present?
It's all the same. It's all the same.
What we have to really find out is where to go consciously when we leave the body.
Wherever it is you go, you need to keep in mind that whoever is in charge of you going anywhere, they're in charge, not you.
But do you think that our consciousness can be controlled?
If you were a spirit in a physical body, and that in another spirit world was contacting you and telling you to go out and do these things, it's not contacting your physical body, it's contacting your spirit. And your spirit is now being talked to by a higher spirit. Well, when you die and your spirit leaves your body, so it's no big deal. They talk to your spirit all the time.
Unless you're becoming conscious about it now.
Yes, but
what is happening?
Yeah.
If it is a trap, could that be what you have described as archons?
who are part of trapping this. And please describe, what is an archon? Is an archon the same as a demiurge or a jinn or a demon or an angel? What are all those things?
The Gnostic writers from basically 2,000 years ago in Egypt, who left their writings, and they were found in Egypt at a place called Nag Hammadi in 1945. They say that the archons in their base form are simply a state of energy, what I would call a state of awareness.
Never physical.
But they can be.
Okay.
What I think reincarnation is, and again, the archon writings by the Gnostics support this, is that it's not just at the level we call physical, 5 sense, this world, that this simulation operates, but other levels as well. So if you leave the body and you are not in an expanded state of consciousness, then your perception will hold you in a low vibrational state, which will stop you leaving other levels of this, quote, matrix. And it's from those other levels that this reincarnation cycle comes. The Gnostics wrote about this, as well as many other people over the ages. But if you leave the body in an expanded state, in awareness of what you are...
Go back to what source, people call God.
Where you can go is beyond the matrix. And what lies there is infinity of possibility. See, this world that we're living in is only one set of possibilities within infinite possibility. So there is a trap. So when you look at it, if you can get people to believe, what is a belief system? It's a perceived system. Your belief dictates your perception dictates your frequency dictates where you can operate and where you can't operate. And therefore, if you can get people to believe in a religion where you're going to be judged by a god, well, when you leave, you're going to be expected to be judged by a god, and that reality will manifest. But if you believe in reincarnation, then the same thing happens. You're still in the trap.
It's the same trap.
In the Gnostic writings about the archons, what we were just talking about, that there is a trap, and when you leave the body, you only get out from the trap when you get beyond Saturn. And putting it all together, as I do in detail in the books, those rings are broadcasting something. The moon's involved as well, I'm sure, which is why this enormous anomalies about the moon that no one can explain shouldn't be there. It's far too big to be going around a planet this small. But these rings they're almost, you could consider them a broadcast transmitter. They're broadcasting an information source. And for me, they're part of the broadcasting system that's broadcasting the information that we're decoding as the simulation. And then look at, these bloodlines, they came out of Sumer, Babylon, Egypt. And then they moved up into Europe, these hybrid bloodlines. And one of the places they stopped off at and created was Rome and the Roman Empire. Who was the biggest god of Rome? Saturn. And
Saturnalia.
Saturnalia, that's our Christmas. In Rome, they had this festival where they had decorated trees, they hung holly and exchanged presents, and had this big debauchery festival. And in the same run-up to the period that we call Christmas. And look at Santa. What's that an anagram of? Satan. Santa. And so
don't tell your children that.
And then you look at Saturn, Satan, and then you find
Saturday.
Yes, that's Saturn Day, of course, the religious day of Judaism. You have Sunday, the religious day of. It's all connected to the planets. Look at the Satanists in the big satanic rituals. One of their centers of worship, focuses of worship, is Saturn. So you put all this together, plus a lot more, and Saturn is a very, very significant planet in this arrangement that we call our reality. And the moon, again, is very much part of that as well.
A lot of people talk about we're now entering the fifth dimension.
Well, at least we don't have the physical body. We are in an astral body, in an energy body, that's for sure. And then there, your thoughts may direct you.
Is everything.
That's right.
So we don't have connection with another energy being, something that is not
everybody
physical?
who's on your level. It's like if you're in school, and we are all in school of life, but if you're in high school, you have contact with all your schoolmates. So those people who are in that dimension, of course they have contact.
They can communicate.
Of course.
Yeah, but can they
Just
see each other?
Just like you and me. I mean, it's another world. It's just switching to another world. It's like switching from CNN to Sky Channel. And everything happens on Sky Channel, but we who are here and we don't have that antenna or we can't put press the button, we say, oh, there's no Sky Channel. Of course it's there. And people who say that, oh, there are no other dimensions, what kind of proof do you have, etc. There's absolute proof, but it is hidden from the general public because it changed everything. It changes
because you
everything.
think it's too difficult for people to understand?
Depends on your background.
If the Reagan document is correct, and there are 5, if the DIA guy who talked to me is correct, 3 competing geopolitical, territorial experimenters on Earth, then one genetic experiment by the Ebens can become something completely different if one of their enemies or somebody who they don't even know about comes to Earth, takes their experiment, does their own interaction, and pretty soon, maybe all of the competing extraterrestrials become very pissed off at each other because they're trying each to do laboratory experiments on this planet and others keep messing up their genetic strains. So maybe humans are a shock. And I think there is something about us that is a shock to them all. And that comes to that question, what happens to the human soul at the moment of death? Because it's possible. In the Gnostic literature and in the philosophy of theosophy, there is this consensus that in the Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien is a soul that may be unique because of all of the genetic mixing and matching leading up to us. But we have this problem. If all of the extraterrestrial mixing and matching of genes on Earth goes back 270 million or a billion, it doesn't matter. It's the issue of mixing and matching genes. And the DIA guy defines the Earth history for 270 million years as the conflict of 3 competing extraterrestrial groups. Then what they did with evolving life, including us, it might explain why Cro-Magnon Homo sapiens sapien is so violent. Why are we always in states of war? Why are we competing and always challenged by murder and violence? Why are ET makers,
which is orchestrated by our governments, right?
but if they're under the influence of competing, it's the competition.
Right. Yes.
It's the competition. Do a triangle and you have 3 corners, and that they have been competing with each other for millions of years, and we're only 45,000 years old, but we do nothing but war. Is the violent nature of humans a key to why something made us and something else has been trying to change us?
Well, how do we know your future lives aren't happening right now? How do you know we're not always at this point? We just don't know. We can't know. You know, so it's just a weird thing. I mean, when you start getting into these sorts of concepts, you can go anywhere. Maybe time is linear. Maybe we just come back one after the other and keep going forward. Maybe we don't come back at all. I don't know. But what I'm saying here is the reason we can't remember these past experiences is because I think it would affect this too much. So you see, evil's got to exist in the world. You've got to have the opportunity for evil. Because if you don't have evil, you don't have the opportunity not to choose that. You know, you've got to have the choice. If you don't have the choice to go wrong, how do you ever make the choice to go right? So therefore, where is the growth?
So you think that evil is necessary?
Evil's necessary for growth.
Really?
Because otherwise we don't have the choice to grow unless we have the choice to go wrong. I think this is why around about 3% of the world are born psychopathic, to give us this wild card to promote spiritual growth. Because without that, if we were just sort of going through every day and it was all perfect and we're growing our food and we're all happy and we're just making love and we're eating and sleeping and everything's just cool, where do we grow? Where do we go from there? What's the experience about?
Maybe that's what people call, heaven or nirvana or something like that.
Well, I believe heaven or nirvana is simply total awareness. Total awareness of what you are and total awareness of what you could be and the potential that we have, you know, and returning to source, I guess.
So you think that evil is really necessary?
I think evil's necessary for growth, yeah, I do. I think it's necessary for us to be able to choose. It's necessary for this growth to happen. It's what we do with the information. The problem is that we tend to go down this path where we just keep doing it. We don't learn from it, and we keep doing things that we know are going to destroy us, but we keep doing them anyway. The Native Americans refer to this as kind of a white man pathogen they call Icke. It's like a parasite, a psychic parasite, which causes people to always do the wrong thing, even though they know it's bad for them. They just keep doing it anyway.
If the human experience is, repeating itself all the time, and so how can we grow? And why should we choose again and again and again, and choose the good instead of the evil?
Why should we choose good? Because it feels good. It feels better. It feels better than evil, and we can...
Are we repeating this, you mean?
Well,
again and again?
That's just a possibility. That's just one thought. Right. I'm not saying we are. That was just an idea when we start getting into those sort of topics where we can go with them. It could be that it's like that, or it could be that it's a linear thing and human consciousness is simply growing. A lot of people would prefer that. Maybe it is. I don't know. I can't see what happens in the other realms, so I don't know. But I just suggest that everything's a possibility. So that comes from reincarnation. Having the understanding that when you ask me about reincarnation, having the understanding that we're a single consciousness that I experienced that day when I had that moment. Reincarnation could be any number of things. It could be that. We could be living all of these lives simultaneously at the same moment and never know that. So it's just an interesting, we can talk for hours on this and go in any direction.
If I die right here, all I do is my energy comes out, and usually it comes out from your head, so-called crown chakra, or sometimes even out from your heart chakra. And you go towards the light. And there's light, light, light. And you can look back and you can see that your body's there. You can see your friends and relatives crying, now she's gone, she's dead. And you're sort of like, hey, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. And then you see the big light. And these have been researched for 30 years. I was consultant also in the beginning of 83 for IANS, International Association for Near-Death Studies in America. So for 30 years they have had these experiences gathered from all kinds of civilizations, from India, from Finland, from America, whatever. And all they say the same thing. You go towards the light, and the light, after you come from the tunnel, says, what have you done with your life?
All the major religions of the world teach a reincarnation. And it makes sense to be if you are a spirit and living in a human body, a physical body. So the question I asked a long time ago, what are we? Are we a human body that's the home of a spirit living in it? Or were we a spirit to begin with who came into this world and took on a human body? So what are you really? Are you a spirit or are you a physical body? And so now I know. I mean, logic alone tells me that you're a physical body. But I've heard lectures by scientists and doctors who explain what does the brain do? The brain is not what you think it is. If you put a table with 50 brains taken from 50 different people and you just put the brains on the table, you're not going to be able to tell anybody from anybody because all the brains look the same. You don't even know the difference between male and female. They all look the same.
So it's all in the soul. It's all in the spirit.
That's right.
Personality.
That's right. Personality is in the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
And the scientist I heard explaining this was a lady scientist, and it was very interesting. She said the question was, what does the brain actually do? And she said, we now know that the brain does only one thing only. It creates and allows for movement. It controls the movement of the brain, the movement of the hands, all of your body functions, where you go, what you're doing. The brain is controlling that. But she said, but where does your creativity, your spiritual self, where does that come from? Your imagination, the dreams at night, where does that come from? And she said, we know positively it does not come from the brain. It does not. The brain is physical for the physical body. But you and your spiritual self and who you are and what you think is funny and what you think is evil and what you see and what you believe, that's not in your brain.
Your soul sort of progress is very intimate to who you are.
So there is a progress.
Yes, it's still an illusion of progress if you have, even if it's all simultaneous.
Right.
Again, because we are going through this process in order to, it's kind of like at play in the fields of the Lord, so to speak, if you want to call it that, put it in biblical terms. It's God, Godhead, which is made up of everything. It's just a word, Godhead.
Source.
It's not a person, source, the force, the creator. I don't care what you call it, but it's the idea that it is at play. It is ever evolving and re-evolving itself and its facets of itself, and we are facets of that. So,
but if everything has happened already, why do we need? Well, how can we evolve? How can we progress?
Again, that's why I say it's re-evolving. Understand, it's more of a circle. You know, the circle is one of the most basic, platonic solids, I suppose that you call it. In other words, the circle and the spiral are, in my way of viewing, the most basic and the most sort of containing the most information about this process you're questioning about.
The torus?
The torus is another sort of image that can be useful. But what I'm saying is that it is that's why the Illuminati use the image of the snake eating its tail. Keep in mind that we are ever becoming and becoming and becoming. Nietzsche put it very well, you know, the idea of constant return. So you're going in and you're coming out. It's like your breath. You know, you're being born and you're dying. You're coming in and going out, and you're never really dying.
So that's not
eternal.
a soul trap, like an orchestrated soul trap by these entities?
I think there's a sort of, I think it's a fad right now. I think there's an overemphasis on this idea of souls being trapped, again, by the white light, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
I think this is, again, a program. You want to believe in it, go ahead. You'll probably attract it to yourself. You know what I'm saying? But it's not unique to each soul. It's you know, you can see beyond it. You may already be beyond that, don't you see?
But if we are aware of it in this lifetime, then maybe when we die, our consciousness will continue, if that is how it is.
It's
and
not
then
going
we
to
can
stop
make
your
that
consciousness
choice.
from continuing anyway. You can be aware of it and hope that it helps you on your journey, but you may not, you know, you may be beyond that. All I'm doing is telling you that it's not something you have to go through.
Right. So you can choose to go to source.
There. Yeah, you can choose to do whatever the hell you want, ultimately. In other words, we are going there and we are already there. It's all one. It really is all one. You know, we do this for fun, for experience, for realization, for, you know, for entertainment.
People say heaven, if they would exponentially increase their view of heaven by 1,000, that wouldn't even approach how wonderful heaven is. It's undescribable. But people like staying there, and that's what we earn if we learn how to live with integrity without envy, greed, and express our love to our family.
But that's the religious beliefs, right, around the world.
It's not. It's a true belief. It's not religion. There is no God as such. There's advisors that are watching us all the time, 24/7. When we pray, we're talking to, it might be family, it might be somebody else, but we're really talking to people, not God, but it is people that are watching our whole life and help us go through life.
But still somebody is superior and making decisions for us, whether we can stay there or
Not
go back.
somebody, something.
Not God.
What? No,
Not
God. The Bible is an allegorical piece of work. Nobody existed. Mary Magdalene did not exist. Jesus did not exist. Peter did not exist. All that stuff is stories made up to teach us certain things about life and how we should do.
That's God in a Christian organized way you're talking about. But what about God as a kind of a force?
It can be a force.
Call it something else.
Yeah, call it whatever you want.
The source?
I don't know. I don't like the word, because when you pray, you're not praying to someone or something or a source. You're praying to your advisors around you. And they answer each and every request that you pray for, not always in the way that you want, but they do answer it. They hear you.
They want us in body-focused, five-sense perception, which is very, very limited in our understanding of self and our understanding of reality. And the other choice, of course, if you want to accept that life doesn't end at the end of the body cycle, is to believe in a religion and some God sitting on a throne, usually with a beard, will judge you. And this God is so loving, there's hell and damnation if you don't do what he says in your brief 70 years and 10. And oh, by the way, all you need to know what God wants so he'll judge you right is between the two covers of this book, whatever religious book it may be. So these are the choices, and you go, crazy, man, crazy. But the alternative, which is that we are awareness, a state of being aware, and my awareness now is aware of you and aware of this room, because my awareness is having its attention focused through this biological computer on this tiny band of frequency, ludicrously narrow frequency we call visible light. And therefore, unless we can expand our awareness beyond the five senses, which is what the pressure is not to do, then basically life appears to be only what you perceive when you look through your eyes. Now, if you think that, according to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum is 0.005% of what exists in the universe, that's what they project, and visible light, which is the only frequency band that we can see, is a tiny sliver of the 0.005%. I mean, basically humans can see nothing. The idea, however, is to persuade us that, A, that's not the case. That's why you don't see programs about it, very rarely, or newspaper articles about it, very rarely. But to focus our attention only in the five senses. Now, that means, first of all, if we don't believe in religion and life after death and being judged, then we believe the lights go out, or we don't know what happens. And what does that create? Fear of death. And fear of death gives your power away in so many ways, like to doctors. Oh, doctor, please keep me here a bit longer. Give me a pill or something, because I don't know what happens and stuff. And then there's the religious, always good God going to judge me and all this stuff. So there's this fear of death. And from that fear of death comes fear of so much else. But when you come from this point of perception that what we are is this state of awareness having an experience, a series of experiences. Through this body lens, which focuses our attention in this band of frequency. And all that happens at death is that vehicle ceases to function, ceases to be that, if you like, computer decoder of this reality. And that which has been observing through it leaves. And that's what happens with near-death experiences.
But I think we also can limit ourselves because of our belief system. If we believe it's not possible, then we make it not possible. I think we have to open ourselves up to the possibility if you only want to do something. If you don't think you can become a mechanic, then it's not going to be as easy for you to learn to become a mechanic because you're working against yourself.
So it's all about what you believe and how you perceive things.
I think it's a lot about how you perceive things, not so much what you believe, but how you perceive things.
Mm-hmm.
Our perceptions.
What I really honestly think is the big truth in the big box. It comes from Thomas Campbell, a physicist who worked for the Army intelligence in the 70s and worked with Robert Monroe on the creation of the hemi-sync technology for going out of body. And in the last 5 or 6 years, I've come to know his work, and here is his bottom line as a physicist who has worked on all of these complicated matters. This is an entropy reduction trainer for soul universe, projected from another dimension on purpose. The souls that are in the various bodies in this universe are here for training. There is exactly the metaphor of the yin and the yang, with the black in the white and the white in the black on purpose. And that those who can get out of this universe after a certain number of recyclings, because they have been able to resist and reduce the influence of the dark in the nearest dimension, they then begin to go up other dimensions. And that it is the evolution of the soul that is the projection of the divine field that created all matter worlds in order to put itself out and see how much of itself would choose to come back.
Ultimately, fear is all related to death, and I don't have any fear of death. Death is the only part of life that is inevitable.
So there is no death?
There'll be death of the physical, but my consciousness will leave. But even so, death is the only part of life which is inevitable.
You reincarnate. That is, every time a child is born, of course, it has an energy. And I've been doing hypnotic regressions with people a long time ago, and they say usually that about the 3rd month of pregnancy, they sort of go in.
The 3rd month?
Yeah, usually. But there was a Finnish lady who said that before I was born to this life, I was watching as an energy when my future parents were having sex. And that became that I was, that was my body that was started. And I went in and out.
That must have been quite an experience, huh?
You're telling me. And then when you come to this world, the reverse happens, as what happens in your death. You go towards the light. Your birth canal is also a kind of a dark tunnel, and you pop out, you come to the light.
But reincarnation is also a part of a religious dogma, like in Buddhism,
yeah,
or
right.
I don't know, Hinduism or whatever.
Yeah.
Many of these things, and the New Age movement, which has been around for the last 30, 40 years, very strongly. How do you feel about the New Age movement?
I don't know how you define it, but I would say it's alternative view of looking at world, looking at life, being a male or a female in a body on this planet. They also, in the alternative movement, they also use healing. And of course, we know that we are an energy. So of course your energy can influence another energy who is close to you, or even from remote.
I think that you have to live with integrity every moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I think that's the only way to live.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean it can't be fun, and it doesn't mean that it can't be continually creative.
So we should
And-
not live in fear of what is actually going on this planet?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's look, it's natural when you're a vulnerable physical being to have fear. In fact, fear is, you're stupidly courageous if you have no fear. You need to, if you have intelligence, you have fear because you understand that fire can burn, for example. So if you put yourself in those positions, you may understand that you could be fearful in the moment. But it's what courage is about overcoming the fear and being beyond it and transforming yourself and transcending it. And so that's what really matters. The fear does not matter. The fear is an illusion anyway. And you will get beyond it. All beings do eventually.
The beauty of this system of an entropy reduction trainer is that the soul, the part that none of us seem to be acknowledging in this crazy world now, the soul is what has been driving every life from the beginning. The soul comes in with certain missions. When people go against whatever it is, that they have internal gut feelings, when they have a sense that they should go this way instead of this way, for those that take their hunches and their gut feelings and their dreams, and that is the way they live, they end up, I believe, at a point at the moment of death going to a completely different dimension than the person who fights going this direction, who fights their dreams, who fights their inner knowing because other humans tell them that's not what you're supposed to do. And those are the ones, I think, who become alcoholic and drugged, and that they are in an angst. They will keep coming back around until they become strong enough as a soul to resist those dark shadows. So everything's headed toward the same door of light.
Thank you very much for watching Age of Truth TV. We appreciate that very much. You can support us by clicking onto our website www.ageoftruth.tv and hit the bell, subscribe to our channel, and like our videos. Your support is needed and very appreciated. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.